Hello and welcome to another episode of Genealogy Quick Start. We are so happy to have you here. We're going to have some fun today. We really want you to help us out with this show because I know the things that we're going to talk about today, a lot of you have experienced with. Hi, thanks for being here. I am Shamele Jordan, the host of this show. Oops, I'm not Jim Byler. Thank you so much for being here. We have two great quick starts. Unfortunately, our special guest could not make it tonight, but she'll be here another time. Guess what? You have me. I'm your special guest tonight, so I hope you don't mind. I came up with something, actually someone else, our former special guest came up with this idea and I said, I'm running with it. What are we doing tonight? Well, as usual, Michael always comes up with great things. Jim comes up with great things as well. He's not with us tonight and we miss you, Jim. Maybe you'll chat and say hello to us. By the way, all of you out there, let us know where you are and your genealogy group so that we can represent. So what are we talking about today? Well, when I started doing genealogy, I went down to Alabama, where my grandmom comes from, and I met the country genealogist. And he said one of the most underutilized records and probably the juiciest, best, most wonderful, exciting records you can look at are court records. And guess who is going to excite you tonight? Michael. He's going to excite you with these wonderful Chancery Records in courting Virginia Chancery Records. And I can't say that word right for some reason. I don't know why, because I keep smiling too hard. And because I'm going to talk about something that without exaggerating, because I can exaggerate sometimes, but this is no exaggeration. This tool is the greatest tool in genealogy, I say, since DNA. It really is. It is doing some amazing things to connect us. Yes, I am talking about getting it all with FamilySearch full text search. So not only do I want you to put in the chat where you are, which genealogy group you're with, are you using the full text search? Are you using Chancery Records? What have you found? What little tips and tricks have you employed that really helped you to find something great? What aha moments did you have with these things? All right. Thank you for doing that. Let me, without further ado, bring out Quick Starter. I like to say that's his number one thing in his life, being a quick starter and a big pop-up. And also Genealogy Tip of the Day, where he is most known, Michael John Neill. Hello, Michael.
Well, hello, Shamele. Hello. That was a good introduction and a really enticing people to think about Chancery court records and court records in general. But we're going to talk about the ones from Virginia in this presentation. Lots of good stuff in there. Lots of good stuff in there.
And I think, like, usually I always say how the quick start somehow kind of match up together, and it doesn't automatically seem like court records and searches match up together, but I think that with this FamilySearch full text search, we will start court records where before we weren't looking at them because they were less searchable, and now that they are, I think we're going to really get into it. So
But
Michael,
they're definitely a lot easier to search than they were back when I started, back when you started. It facilitates finding things, for sure.
it really does. It really does. Who do we have here with us today? We have first up, Cynthia Cruz is number one from Topeka, Kansas, Genealogical Society. Hi, Cynthia. We have the Black and Gold is here. Angela Allen from Houston. Hello from Houston, by way of AAGHFC. that is the African American Historical, Genealogical and Historical Society in Chicago. And we have Monique Toy from Nebraska. Not in any group yet. Okay, Monique, it sounds like we got a soul out here that needs some saving. Please join a genealogy group. You will love it because your family they're not going to want to hear all the minutia. They're not going to support you. They just want to know the famous people that they're related to. They're not going to want to hear all the little stuff, right, Michael? So that's why you need a genealogy.
That's it. If you've got relatives you want to get rid of, start telling them the tedious stories about your research.
Chase them away. We have Judy. Our Judy's here from Chicagoland, representing Illinois State Genealogical Society. Hello, Paula Moen from down the street in West Deptford. Hey, Jean, how are you from Collegeville? AAGG, AAHGS, Family Quest, AAHGS, Greater Virginia and South Carolina Historical Society. Hello, Anita Payne. Yes, TNGS, which is Tennessee, Fayette County, Tennessee Family History Group. And we have AAGS Cleveland. I love Dr. Debbie's group. And she says she's using the full text search and she found the will that she wasn't aware of. Very cool. Monique said, amen. Hello, Rita from Southeastern Pennsylvania, researching solo. Rita, Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania. Come hang out with us, gsp.org. Donald Simmons Jr., Manalapan, New Jersey. Yay, Jersey, and VGS. So you have some Virginia going on, and MC, if that's Virginia. Sorry if it's not. MCGS. What's the MC stand for? What do you think, Michael? Donald, what's the MC stand for? Montgomery County?
That's probably a good guess.
Okay.
Or maybe, that's something County Genealogical Society. There's a lot of them.
There are. And Cynthia says, yes, the full text search is fantastic. 25 death and birth records that were certified by your third great grandfather. Fantastic. He was a doctor in Iowa. And Donald says, it's Monmouth County. Woohoo! And wait, Monmouth County, Virginia, huh? Interesting. Wait.
No, New Jersey.
Okay. All right, cool. Monmouth County is one of the dream counties in the state of New Jersey. If you have people from Monmouth County, you are lucky because it is a very supportive to genealogists, location, and historians. All right, Michael, are you ready to get started with?
No, but that's okay. We'll go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So what do we have here today? Why can't I say this word? Chancery Records.
There you go. Chancery. Just take a chance and
Chancery.
say it.
Chancery. I want to say Chauncey and Chancery, but it's Chancery. Okay, I got it.
Well, it's like some things. We get something stuck in our head and you can't get it out. What grandma thought about her grandpa, you can't get out of her head. The pronunciation is the same thing. Same thing for you. So it's just, those things happen.
So tell us, what is a chancery record, Michael?
Well, the ones that we're going to look at the Library of Virginia are the loose papers or the packets of court documents, affidavits, depositions, various court orders and whatnot. And these are just the initial case, the first time the case was heard. Some of these are county courts. Some of these are city courts for independent cities in Virginia. And as we're going to see, you don't always want to look just in the county where you think you lived. My case might have been heard in an adjacent county or an adjacent independent city. So like a lot of things, when you're doing research, have this thing called map. So you know all the locations, if it's a place you're familiar with because you grew up there, that's fine. But if it's a place you're not familiar with, have that map with you. So you're looking in. When I look for these records here, I always look in all the adjacent locations and independent cities and whatnot so that I don't overlook overlook anything. It's going to be tagged by the county where it was filed or where the case was heard. So you want to keep that in mind. But
and for all locations, you should have, just like we have trees for our people, you should have a lineage for locations as well.
Exactly, you should. So you know when county was formed from another county and what county it was formed from and those dates and things of that sort.
So, Michael, we are talking specifically about Virginia. Are there chancery courts everywhere, or is a chancery court just like a circuit court by a sexed-up name?
Yeah, it's just the name that was used in Virginia. Other places might call them a circuit court, surrogate court. It's just those local courts that would hear the cases that we're going to talk about are financial things, inheritance issues, property disputes for the most part. They're not most. I haven't seen many divorces in here. At least not when I've been looking for those individuals. But it's fussing over property essentially.
Okay, so even though we're talking specific about a tool for Virginia, what you're talking about in general, after you get past searching and having access to the index online, you can recreate this for any location.
So, right. The concept of these original court papers, the depositions, the affidavits, if they're still extant, they'll contain similar information no matter where you're at in the United States. They just have to be extant. But some of the social history clues, the relationship clues that we'll see in a few of these records, those are in court records across the U.S., not just Virginia.
Fantastic. So you ready, Michael, to get started?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get going with courting Virginia Chancery Records. Still didn't feel right. Step one is to understand your ancestors' geography. So that's kind of what we were talking about, kind of understanding the lineage or the history of a particular location.
You know, and know where they lived if you can within the county. Are they in the southern part, the western part, or whatever? So that helps you know which border counties to look for in these records. And again, that's an approach that you could extrapolate to wherever you're researching, not just Virginia.
And Michael, what are some good places to understand the counties or understand the history of the geography?
One place I would go is to look at State Archives websites and to see if they have old maps. Some State Archives websites will have a discussion of county boundaries and how those changes. The Newberry Library has a great website for county boundary changes over time for the whole United States. That would probably be the place to start.
That's the number one place to go, to Atlas of Historic County Boundaries.
Exactly. Yes. And if you just do a Giggle search for that, you'll find it.
Did you say ha 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 ha?
I did. I said Giggle, do a Giggle search. You'll for what Shamele just said, you'll find it, and that's the place to start for these changes. Maybe more detail than you need, but there'll be enough detail for you at that website.
And for New Jersey, they have a book that was created that you could get online. You could get at the New Jersey State Archives website that really gives a history, and it's very detailed and it's fantastic. All right, so we have the geography history. Now, step two is to learn about the court system in the area. Okay, Michael, when I was at the archives, me and my cousin, when we look at probate, we get it. Genealogists, we know, like wills, inventories, and assessments. But when I looked at court stuff, I'm just like, what? How do you get an understanding of what the court system is like?
I would start looking at the State Archives website to see, because the records that we're talking about are older records, and the court structure might be a little different in 1850 or 1750 than it is today. And that would be a good place. The FamilySearch wiki could also give you some information. But I would probably start with the State Archives website and see if they've got any discussion of an overview of the court structure, because like you mentioned, probates usually are a separate court, or at least a separate series of records in many locations. But yeah, the ones that we're talking, there might be more than one court. One court might have heard financial matters, and one court might have heard other criminal cases and things of that type. So make certain you're looking at all the different courts, not just the probate court.
It's mind blowing how many different courts. When they let
Exactly.
me in the room where all the books were, and it was like equity court, and it was just like, okay, I'm gonna go and just focus over here.
Because equity is where they're trying to make a fair decision. There might not be a case law they can look at and say, yeah, here's what we're going to do, but the judge will look and see what's fair, as opposed to looking at old case law, and that's just there may be a separate court for that. So you want to make sure you're looking at all those records. The joke I make before we go on to step 2, if you're looking in an index and for the type of court case it is, you see no divorce, you see no adultery, you see no fornication, all you see are liens, foreclosures, and that kind of thing, then you're looking in the wrong book. Because there's got to be cases like that. So if the index doesn't indicate that, then you're in a court that didn't hear those cases. You're going to want to find out what court in that county.
You want the juicy court. You want the reality TV
the
court.
reality court. Yeah. You want the Judge Judy court. Yeah.
All right. You want the human court. All right. You want the Jerry Springer court.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
All right. So that's step 2. Step 3 is to create a list of people to search. So that's fairly.
Yeah, and this is really important if you're going to use a site like the one that we're going to talk about that has an index, and we're going to be querying names, and we're going to be formulating searches. Before you just start typing names in boxes and hoping, make a list of the people you want to search for and organize that. We'll show you briefly some ways to do that, but you've got to have some organization to how you search. Even if it's not online like it is here, you want to have a list so you don't overlook possible combinations. That's really important for the way we're going to search at the Library of Virginia, to have that.
And it really makes you feel like you're covering things as opposed to just going buck wild like what I was doing for like the past 2 hours. And so I know I did a lot of searches. I know I found some interesting things, but like what? Because
the other thing is having that list is important for 2 reasons. One, there's no way you can go back later and problem solve to figure out what you might have overlooked if you don't have a list. And 2, if you're finding some stuff and it's really interesting, which some of it really is, it's very easy for some of us to get distracted is the word. And then if I've got a list of who I'm searching for, even if I get distracted for 3 hours on something, I can go back to my list.
You can always go back.
Exactly.
All right. So we're making a list and we're checking it twice. And then step 4 is to search these records, the index, which you're going to show us. You have lots of cool images. And then you're going to show us some cool tips. And step 5 is to download your find. So let's take a look at what you got here, Michael. I'm really interested in these. I still haven't figured out who my Virginia people are yet, but here we are.
This is just a screenshot of the main web page. There's a link there for frequently asked questions. I would read through that. If you've never used it before, if you've never used court records before, then you would want to take a look and read that to familiarize yourself with things a little bit. And that's true at any website. You want to familiarize yourself with it. So this is the main search interface, and we got a lot of boxes to fill in. You don't have to fill in all you choose the county that you want. You can choose all localities, but if your name is kind of common, you're probably not going to want to do that. You can search by plaintiff, defendant, or just surnames in general. These records, and this is where it's always important to understand how things are indexed. The way these records were indexed at the Library of Virginia Chancery Records site, they index all the plaintiffs, all the defendants, and then the main people who were involved.
Okay.
Like anybody who made an affidavit.
Okay.
Or gave testimony. And then also, since it's Virginia, if there were people that were enslaved that are mentioned, because some of these court cases involve legal action over ownership of slaves.
Yeah.
those names were also made a part of the index.
Oh, well, where would their names show up?
When I
Under
search for those,
surname?
I put those in surnames. Yeah, I
Okay.
put those in surnames.
Very interesting.
And then you can tag it if you want to get results that mention a plat, or I think enslaved people, or things you can have it returned to you precisely. So if you've got an enslaver you want to see if he's mentioned anywhere in a court case, you can search on his name. And then if you only want to look for those cases that might mention his enslaved individuals, you could check that box for, oh, that's way too small for me to read. But you can see it on the website. The one
I
where
see what you mean.
you
I
see what
see
I mean.
what
There's
you
a box
mean.
for that. Yeah, there's a box for that.
Very cool.
And then what also is kind of neat, and I didn't know this at first because I don't think it was explained anywhere on the frequently asked questions page, but you can do wildcard searches. You can put the underscore in. So the last name Kyle sometimes has a Y, sometimes has an I. So the way I search for that,
Oh, underscores, like an asterisk or a question mark.
right. So what they call the fixed length wildcard here is an underscore. At the Library of Virginia website. It's K_LE. So that would get a K, any individual one letter, and then ending in LE. So that would catch those variant spellings, because you don't have, an Ancestry or some of the other sites, you've got drop down menus for inexact, sound X, whatever. We don't have that here, but you can use the wildcard.
What's the multiple? So
The other one, it should be on the next image. There we go.
Oh.
So if you want a varying number of letters in place of that, you would use the percent. So when I put K%LE, I got KALE, KYLE, I get KASTLE. Anything that starts with a K, has some stuff, and ends in LE.
Nice.
What you should use for what name depends upon your variance.
Nice.
That can save some time there too. This is one of the individual references to a specific case. So you do a search, a bunch of results comes up, then this is what it's extracting from that case. And this is the names that are mentioned, plaintiff and defendant. It's got an index number in the county. This was one that has not been digitized yet for a screenshot, which was not the best one for me to pick, but I did.
Oh, so this is beyond an index. It actually has images behind it.
There's images. Yeah, there's images. On this one, if it has images, and a lot of them do, right next to where it says closed case detail, you'll be able to click and you can go through one image after the other.
Very nice. And so if there is not a link, the image is not there, you will grab the index number and the case number, and you could call them or something.
You could reach out to them and see what the best approach is to get copies of that record.
Okay.
And then this is just a quick sample of a church. See, now you got me mispronouncing things. I was going to say church start. This is an example of a search chart. So I just put, plaintiff last, plaintiff first, defendant, and then made this grid so that I could put in the variance that how I search, so I can keep track.
Oh.
It's just a little search chart to help organize me, so I don't go in circles and overlook a variance.
E and F. Did you say what that is?
The P enslaved, and I forget what the F is for. It's one of those small check boxes on the website. And now I'm gonna look here real fast because now you got me.
It'll come to you.
And E is for enslaved, and F is for free.
Okay, I was gonna say free, but I thought it would have came to you. What do we have here?
This is an example of one of those documents that is in these files. This was a family agreement that the Rucker family had done in December of 1799 after the father died. And then what happened was they signed this agreement about how they're going to settle up his property. And then surprise, surprise, somebody gets irritated about something and they end up in court. And so
Ooh.
this was one of the pieces of evidence in this Chancery case involving the heirs of Isaac Rucker. The agreement, that was one of the documents in there. I think if we click and go to the next image, they all signed it. So I got the signatures
Nice.
of all the individuals. And what was really cool for me, without going into all the detail, one of the heirs did not live in Virginia. He was living in Kentucky. And so his father signed for him. And it's the name on the right where you see John Tinsley for his son James. So there was a lot of genealogy right there in that, in that document.
That's pretty cool right there. I love that.
That for me, that was a great find, because that confirmed things that no other records had stated. As this one just explicitly states John and James and the whole situation, where other the deeds and whatnot hinted at it but didn't state it. This agreement,
this is direct evidence, no indirect going on.
Exactly. There is no ambiguity with that, which was great. This was another case. This was an example of when I found this, it wasn't in the right county. It was a couple county or two away for reasons I'm not quite sure. And basically what happened here, Mildred Rucker, she's the widow from the previous court case. She lived with her daughter while her daughter was ill for about 3 years. And after the daughter died, the son-in-law wanted money for her room.
Oh my gosh.
Is what happened. And so this is part of her initial response. I think he sued her. This is her response. She talks about, she does not mention her daughter by name anywhere in this court case.
Does she say mofo anywhere about her son-in-law?
Well, there's the lawyer version of that. There's the lawyer version. I'm trying to think, something about human dignity or compassion he must be lacking. Something, it's very nicely,
crazy
in there. He's lacking in human dignity or something, but that's part of her. But she mentions she's taking care of her sick daughter and her grandchildren.
Would there be? Does this contain all of the files for this case, or do you have to go other
loose papers? These are all the
loose papers. Okay.
Yeah, the ledgers are not in this database. It's the loose papers. But the loose papers really have the ledgers are good too. You want to look at those. But the loose papers with the, like here we see the the response, affidavits, that's where a lot of the good stuff. What's in the order books oftentimes is, here's what the court is doing.
The summary, the blah, blah.
Exactly. The verdict. You got to pay him $40, or you don't owe the money or whatever. This is the stuff we want to, that we want to see. Here it is. He is destitute of those social feelings that naturally belong to man. I think that's a real nice way, if you want to call somebody out and not use any of those bad words.
AKA mofo. That's how you say mofo in the 1800s.
In lawyer talk, exactly. I thought that was really good.
Oh, what's this, Michael?
This was a list of what he felt he was owed from his mother-in-law.
Oh, my Lord.
Mistress Mildred Rucker, an account with Archelaus Reynolds, that's his name. But this tells me what year she lived there, 1805, 1806.
Yes, to 1808.
And then I think he paid to have her horseshoed. She must have moved out on Christmas of 1808.
She had enough of them.
I guess Christmas was it. Because it mentions
$55 whole.
Yeah, I think that's pounds. I have a suspicion.
Oh, pounds. Oh, wow.
But
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, but it mentions she was there until Christmas in 1808. The horse was there until January 10th of 1809. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but there's just this is just a quick sample of some of the things that you'll find. There's a lot of good genealogy and social history in these loose papers.
Okay, so you found these. Would you look in additional places? Where else would you look now that you have that?
I would look in the county where they lived. I would look in all the surrounding counties.
Okay.
When you're doing your search, just so you don't overlook something.
Okay, I love that. And let's go through the steps. I want to ask you so many questions, but we have another quick start to do. So for courting Chancery Records, it's getting a little better. Step 1, understand ancestors' geography. Step 2, learn about the court system in the area. In the state for New Jersey, they have a flow chart right on the website. Step 3, create a list of people to search. And I'm sure New Jersey's not the only one that does that. Step 4, you want to search that index. Maybe there's one for your different states. Virginia might not be the only one, even though Virginia is quite fabulous. Step 5, you want to download what you find and continue to search. And step 6, you want to analyze what you have. Thank you, Michael. Don't go anywhere. Was that fabulous? Are you guys searching? I think they're quiet now because they're all over there in Virginia searching. Because everyone goes back to Virginia, right? Thank you, Michael.
People do. Thank you.
All right. So welcome back, Michael. So we are going to do our second quick start. Dealing with, let's make sure we didn't have, repeat the name of the library and the map resource we mentioned. Library of Virginia is where those Chancery records are, and the Newberry Library is where the Atlas
of Historical County Boundaries Project.
Yes, it's a great website. And it never gets old. It's just sitting there waiting for us. All right. So, Michael, we are going to talk about something that we've basically been talking about without really talking about it, is the FamilySearch full text search. One of our past special guests, Dr. Michael Kearney, said that he's going to be talking about it. And I said, that is a great idea. So we are going to talk about getting it all with full search text. So Michael, how about you tell us what full search for text is?
Well, basically what the full text search does at FamilySearch, they took the microfilm copies of their records, they digitized them, and then they had artificial intelligence read the script and transcribe the script. Not perfect, but it's better than nothing. And then the full text search allows you to search all those words. So it's like if they digitize the whole courthouse, and they did in some places, full text search allows you to search all the deed books for the term Fuffernugan, if that's your last one. Instead of you having to go through all those manually, which is just not practical for most of us to do that.
And also, you had brought up a great point about, like, I think we don't realize that when we're searching ancestry and when we're generally searching, we are searching an index. We are not searching the whole thing. So someone went through and pulled out the names, and not all the names, right?
Exactly.
And so this is going to allow us to search subjects and stuff like that, right, Michael?
Right, and it changes for a lot of us that have been doing this for a long time. We are so used to searching for names and thinking about how to spell names. Those aren't bad things to think about. But with a full text search, we can think about searching for locations, occupations, different subjects. And one thing I suggest to people, if you're having trouble, think about the document that you're looking for, hoping to find. And besides the names that are on that document, think about what other words, now not and the and or, don't be silly. Think about the other words that could help you pull out that document.
You might put street names, like if you lived off of a major street. As an African American, they have all kinds of titles for us. So Negro, slave,
Exactly. And
Irish, they might say, they call it out, just like they say a black man, they say Irish man or a Chinese man.
Exactly.
Put that in there.
If it's a state that has meets and bounds land descriptions, if there's a unique geographic feature, don't put mountain in there. There'll be a lot of some places there won't be, but the name of a creek put the whole name of
Timber
the
Branch, Cooper Creek.
right,
Yes.
right. I mean, don't put oak tree and maple tree, but something that's a little more unique, that could be in that meets and bounds description, Rutgers Corner or whatever the case may be. So it really should get us thinking about other ways to search besides just first and last and middle names.
And just talking about deeds itself, they would be indexed who's selling it and who's buying it. But
Exactly.
now when you do the full text search, you can see who's in the description. So if they say they're next to so-and-so's land, that also shows up where before it wouldn't have shown up.
And the other thing with land records, that there may, if it's a bunch of heirs selling off property, there could be 15 or 20 grantors on that deed. It's only going to be in the grantor index one time.
They're just at all.
Exactly. In the index, yeah. And so this allows us to search for all those names, not just one or two.
I think this was the longest setup that we've ever done. You ready to get going?
I think so.
All right, Michael, let's go get it all with full text search. So step 1 is to choose a research question. Of course, start with a question. I just saw something on FamilySearch that I hadn't noticed before. I don't know about it yet, but it was like an AI search in beta. So think about what you want to know. For me, my examples are about getting to know one of the people who was an overseer, possibly be an enslaver. I wanted to know more about him. So I'll show you some of the searches that I questioned. I also asked questions about, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. Michael, did you have any specific research questions that you kind of get into this?
Usually I'm more looking for a person, and then I'm thinking about those other words that could be on the document that might, that might help me find them. So,
and we didn't talk about what's on there. So as far as I know, first of all, when you go there, which I'll show you how to get there, there's a place where you can browse the collection so you can see exactly what's there. But what I knew is that they were putting up all of probate, then they put up all of court, and then they put all records of enslavement. Did they go to like immigration? Did they get like?
I think there's some of that. I've seen birth and death certificates and marriage records on there, federal land patents. They're just kind of adding it. Now I think it's just, I'm not hitting.
But it's a lot of stuff out there.
It's a lot of stuff. And the one thing that you want to always think about is figure out, when you find something, figure out what it is you're actually looking at. Sometimes it's obvious, but the other analogy of this is, I tell people, it's like you're in the back of the courthouse and you said to the genealogy guru in the sky, could you give me a document that mentions Riley Rampling? And it just float. Oh, the screensaver just floats down. And that's kind of how it seems to be. And the thing is, it just floats down and appears on your screen. And you want to figure out exactly what it is you are looking at. Some records are pretty obvious. Others are not. And that's a part of hopefully one of your last steps is to figure out just what the schmel you're looking at. Because the reason for that is it helps us to analyze and understand it and interpret it if we know what it is we're looking at.
So that's step 1, research question. What do you want to know? Step 2 is you want to create a research plan. Like what types of records can answer your question. Step 3 is then to search FamilySearch's beta. It's not like in the regular FamilySearch.org. It's not there. Right, Michael? It's not there. You have to Google. I always Google FamilySearch space labs. That's how I get to it. And I probably should bookmark it, but I'm just so excited. I just start typing. All right. So you want to go there. I have a screenshot to show you. You want to analyze the transcription, because not only are you searching, once you bring up these cool documents, you don't have to suffer through the script. Michael, do you still do that? I forget it's over there, and I'm just so happy that I have the
Oh,
document. I'm suffering through reading the script.
I suffer through the script because I just, it's old habit, and I'm reasonably decent at reading most of them unless it's not in English.
And I'm like, stop suffering. Look to the right. There it is. You can read it over here. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. You guys know what I mean. I don't have to show you. And then step 5, have you used AI to, so you have AI, you want to use AI to analyze some of these documents. And I'm going to show you how I did that. I learned it from Steve Little. So hang out with
That's
Steve
cool.
Little.
It'll summarize the document, which is really helpful for court records in particular. Yeah.
And they have a little summary in there, but I'm going to show you how, you can really summarize it. And then, of course, the last step is to document your findings, which includes knowing what you're looking at. All right, Michael, let's look at some documents. All right. So the first thing that I do is I do a Google for FamilySearch.org /labs, and it'll bring you here. And then you have to log in like normal Family Search. And it's a free account. You don't have to pay for it. That's the kind of wonderful people Family Search is. And then yours might say turn on. So you want to click on turn on, but mine is on. So I just want to go to the experiment. And you'll know you're in the experiment because one, it'll say full text search, and then it'll have this thing up here that says, this is experimental. So don't like get crazy if it's not perfect. And so this is an example of Thomas Ross. He was an overseer of one of the 4 for the plantation for the enslaver for my folks in Florida. And this is his will. And I wanted his will. So I did a search. Let's see. I think I have the wrong one here. And in 1870, he was with Hester Mills, who is the mother of my ancestor's brother. And so I wanted to see how connected the two of them were. And so here's an example. This is the will right here. Oh, no, this is another one. This is a deed. Sorry, the will was in the wrong place. This is a deed. And this is a deed of that was really weird for me. I've never seen this before. When you think a deed, you think land and property. This was actually a deed, an employment deed for jobs. And so in Family Search, see over here on the right hand side, you have your transcription of the document you're looking at on the left. And just above it, it says summarize the document. And if you click on the little click there, it'll give you this little summary here. So it's like this document outlines 2 contracts in July and May between employers and employees, the freedmen. And so it's like the contracts cover terms of labor, compensation. We're genealogists. We need to know what those details are. That's like too much of a summary for me. Over here, it gives you the dates and then like the specific people who are the employers, and then the employees show up at the bottom. And so this is a deed. Michael, why do you think that a deed?
My gut would tell me why this was, because it doesn't appear to be a legitimate land record, but it's not really, without looking at it, it's not really a lease, but it talks about they're working on this property, they're getting a share of the crops. There's some
so it's land adjacent.
So it's kind of like a lease, but it's probably not. But it affects, they're able to use that land for a while and be on that land for a while, and that affects the land in a way, not fee simple ownership, but access to it, I guess. And that's probably why it's in with the
okay it's land adjacent type of record.
Yeah,
I get it. So this was, I think it's 1868. And so what I did is I went to Gemini, I think I used. So there's a lot of different AI tools out there. The two that I kind of hang out with is Gemini and Chat GPT. There's another one called Claude or Clyde or something. Claude. I haven't hung out with Claude. Have you hung out with Claude yet?
Well, there's a lot of dirt in Claude, so you got to be kidding. It's CLAUDE, not CLOD.
And so what I asked it to do is I said, what are the terms of the contract? Question mark. Can you put, hold on, I can't see this. Can you put the terms in a table with the following columns: date of the contract, length of the contract, employees, terms of the contract for the employees, and the terms of the contract for the employer. And so, and then this is what it did: the date of the contract, the length, the names of the employees, and then the terms, the specific details. You know, they got to obey. They need to protect the property. They can't leave. And then, of course, they're going to get 1/2 of the total crop. Compensation is calculated after employees have repaid half the supplies. So these are the details, and now you can see this in a proper summary by using AI.
You know what might be helpful is to tell it to extract, not because sometimes when AI thinks, especially in these historical documents, it doesn't go as well as it could. But so sometimes using the word extract or quote,
Yes,
then kind of drives it to think less.
And I have an example of that. You're exactly right. I have an example of that because there's one more column that I should have added, and I'll share that. So these are searches. Michael has some search ideas. I'm going to share mine, and I'm looking forward to hearing yours. So Thomas Ross, like I said, he was an overseer. So he worked for another man, but on the 1860, it said he had personal property. And so I didn't know whether or not those were people. So I wanted to know if he had any enslaved people. And so, you know, when you think about antebellum, you think that they're calling everybody slaves. But I didn't get as many hits with Thomas Ross under slave as I did Thomas Ross Negro. And I got a hit with Thomas Ross slave. It's just like a Google search. Doesn't mean that it was in the exact same document. It could be, 2 documents over. So just remember to do that. And then also I did a search with Thomas Ross with Hester Mills, who I know he's connected with. Just like Noah Thompson, I know that he's connected with my Nancy. So I did slave Nancy. So if there's an enslaver, and you could flip it if you wanted to put your ancestor's name and put the enslaver in keywords or just a surname, the family was an owner. You could do that kind of search. Michael, any kind of searches because you talk about keyword searches. I love your ideas.
Just a couple suggestions. Probably you could even put, because sometimes it doesn't always transcribe things correctly. So for your keywords, you could put get rid of the RO, or look at the word Negro and see how often it gets spelled correctly and what the common
misspelling is.
Exactly. And then use a wild card. Maybe I'm not sure where you could put those. Maybe NEG and then I forget if it's I think it's a asterisk family.
I think they do asterisks and question
and then
mark.
that would catch, because sometimes it might be negress. If it's female, sometimes you'll see that word used, and then that would catch all those references in one search. I would, just because I like to criticize, because that's just me. I'm not, criticize isn't the right word. Suggest the year range you put on there. The thing with that sometimes is I've noticed that sometimes those years if you've got 1790 at 1860 in that one that I can see, and 1880 in the other one, sometimes those years on the results aren't really right for the years in the records. And that's what it's pulling it from the year, because a lot of this whole process is automated. Even those
Yes.
years on those title headings, whatever, there's a better word for that probably. I call it the title headings of your search results. Sometimes I've seen those years to be off. And so I would leave those off unless I got so many things I couldn't go through them all.
That makes sense.
That would be, it's kind of like less is more, to use that phrase.
Yes.
That would be a thing to think about. The other, you did this with the place. I've noticed on some of those in the results, sometimes when it puts a location smaller than the county, it's not always correct with what is in the record. And so you did what I did. I never go smaller than the county on those locations. The other thing is, if you don't know what they could be in records in an adjacent county, so it's like we did earlier, you're going to want to look at those adjacent locations as well, depending on how close to the county line they live.
And we didn't talk about like above, like once you get your search results, you can drill down by record type.
Right.
I'm struggling a little bit with the record types because
I rarely use those because they're just, one said legal.
They help once you figure it out. Once you figure out legal records include probate records, then you're good. You have to do something when you have a result of 200.
You've got to. That's the problem. You have to. There's just no way around it, unfortunately.
So whether you are watching live right now or while you're in recording, what are some of your search tips? I would love to hear some of those. Michael, so let me see this one. Oh, I got a Chancery packet for Leon County. And this is one where I did a search for Thomas Ross and Negro. This is what came up. And so this looks like, Chancery, but it also looks like an inventory and appraisement. That's a part of it, like the loose papers. And so here it's Thomas Ross is getting Violet. Someone and his wife Violet as a part of this court record. And then you over here on the right, you have all of your text document, your transcription. And then, so this is the will. And so I had talked about his will before, Thomas Ross. And so I was interested in, first of all, it's probably bad, and I should never say this, but during antebellum, you always want the person to pass away before slavery ends so that you can get a listing of the people. But this was after. But still, even though I think this was 75, 1875, he wrote his will. I wanted to see if he still had some sort of a relationship with Hester, because I think she was still alive. So I did a search for him, and you can see the filters at the top that I was talking about. And they kind of don't make sense in the big type. Select collection and like legal to get the probate. But you don't have to use them, like Michael said. You can keep it open and drill down if it's just too many. And so what did I do with that? Oh, and this is his will. And I decided that I was tired of reading it. And so I went and I said, create a table, a column for the beneficiary name, the bequest, what are they receiving, the relationship to the deceased. And this is what you were talking about, Michael, the sentence with the bequest details, or the sentence that says the relationship. And that is a way to double check what AI is putting out to you. So that's what you meant, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. I like to have, because when it tries to think, sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's not. And so generic approach was something to give me proof, give me evidence, or quote the document. Could you quote the document that backs that up? And that cleaned up some of that a little bit. Judy asked, where do you enter the filters? You click on those under your search results, right
So
there
right here at the top,
under that gray bar, and above the red, pink, or purple, whatever it is.
Yeah, once you click on, say, what's the first one? I can't see this. The first one is collection. So I think once I clicked on collections, it was that my choices were like legal and something else. And when I clicked on legal, it said wills, probate, and something else.
And clicking on that dark gray ellipse there's an X on the right of that. That's where you could change the locality filter to if you wanted to. No, you do not enter the filter.
No, you don't enter them.
No.
They're like levers that you you choose them
right
to filter out.
And you don't have to enter the place either. You can drill down to the county. If you leave that blank, you can drill down to the county you want.
And it will throw in places that are not like the place that you're talking about. But yeah, you can leave that blank too. So yeah, thanks for asking that.
So there's a thing I'm not sure. Go back to that screen for just a hot second. You can see where she's put Thomas Ross in quotes.
Yes.
But if you look at the results, it did some good thinking. She didn't put Thomas W. Ross. She put Thomas Ross in quotes, but it still pulled it up. W in there. So you don't have to worry about, the nice thing is the way this is structured, you don't have to worry about those middle initials. If you put it in quotes, it's smart enough to think, she probably wants to see that. So I'm going to.
It's Google-like. That's what we want.
Programmed. Yeah, it's programmed. That's good thinking. Unlike some other thinking sometimes we encounter.
And then all the search tips like the wild cards and all of that is right here down below. Oh, thank you, family. So Judy's saying that the FamilySearch labs can also be found on the main home page of FamilySearch if you go to the site. And just be careful, like when I was in FamilySearch labs and then I decided, let me go look in the catalog and let me go do X, Y, and Z. It was kind of like not right. So
one thing, since you mentioned the catalog, one thing a person might want to do, if you're not familiar with what they have for Dade County, Florida in FamilySearch, before you spend a lot of time doing these full text search things, look in the catalog for Dade County, Florida, see what they have, and then go back and do the full text searches. Because if they ain't got it, no matter how clever you get, you ain't going to find it in there.
Because a lot of counties and stuff, they did not allow this stuff to be digitized because of suspicion and other weirdness. Let me see that I show all of my slides. I think I did. Let me see. Thomas Ross, we pulled it out. Yes. And here's what it looks like summarizing the data. The beneficiary is in the first column, the bequest, the relationship, and then tell me the sentence with the bequest details as transcribed. And so this is how you can check. The funniest thing, I heard Steve talking recently, and he said that AI is a liar. AI wants to make you happy. And so one of the cool things that I noticed that Gemini did is it had caveats at the bottom, and it tells you how it came up with what it did and why it omitted things, like it didn't include the mother because the mother did not receive anything. It just said to take care of her for the rest of her life. So they didn't include it. So I really like that feature. All right, Michael, thank you.
Yeah. I was going to say, you can tell it to include all the people in the will. And
yes.
She queried it a little differently. Yeah.
Go through all the steps for the full text search. Step 1 is choose a research question. Step 2 is to create a research plan. Step 3 is research FamilySearch beta. Step 4 is to analyze the full text search transcription. Step 5 is to make use of AI. Step 6 is to document your findings. We have a new person in the most engaged, of course, Chicago. Number 1, the black and gold. Number 2, Montgomery County came in strong. Yes, Montgomery County. Thank you so much for sharing with your members. Number 3 is Tennessee. Thank you, Tennessee. Your group can be up here as well. Just share the newsletter with your membership. Thank you so much for being here. We hope that you enjoy tonight. Michael, thank you for being here. If I could just get this thing off the screen, that would be really nice. All right, there we go. Have a great night. Take care. And I have some outro music for you. Have a good evening. Go to FamilySearch. Have some fun. Tell your family.
Be up all hours of the night.